Welcome to the first episode of Wargaming, whenever. I've got Chris here, and we're going to be talking about the Death Guard codex tonight, which is super exciting, and there's already a mosquito in my eye. That's just absolutely terrible.
Good job.
So I have no idea what I'm doing because I've never done anything like this before. So if it's absolutely terrible, I don't apologize in advance. You're not paying for this, so there you go. So we're currently going out live to YouTube's The Faceballs and Twitch, whatever happens on Twitch. I've never used Twitch, so I have no idea what happens over there. So everything's looking good. So, as everyone knows, the Death Guard Codex came out about a week ago. That's how long we've been trying to get this thing set up to work. And we were planning on doing this stream originally back on, I think it was Monday night?
Yeah, Monday.
And basically my internet decided to poop itself, which is why that didn't happen. 3 days later, got it fixed, so that's a reasonable response time, so that was good. And now we have internet that is not dropping out every 30 seconds, which is fantastic. So, without further ado, let's jump into it. And so, Chris, you've read through the codex now. What do you think of it overall compared to how the other two codexes that have already come out, being Necrons and Space Marines? How does the Death Guard kind of compare?
I think the Death Guard is it's set up slightly differently. Like Necrons have got their style of play, obviously, and Space Marines you've got like 6 different styles of play in one book. Whereas the Death Guard is it's kind of one, where it's how Nurgle is supposed to be, slowly contain, walking up the board, spreading disease and whatever, and just not dying, basically. There's some good things in here that help you combat the other armies, help you survive longer, like the new Disgustingly Resilient. It's changed a lot from what people remember, or from the last time. It's now not 5+ feel no pain, it's just -1 damage.
Which in some ways is really good for the Death Guard, but in some other ways not so great, given that now it means that you don't ignore a third of mortal wounds, which I'm rather happy about, because it means I might actually take some things that cause mortal wounds now. But in other ways, it's a lot better than it was before, because it's a bit more predictable. Would that be a fair thing to say?
It would be, and with the prevalence now of 2 damage weapons, and all the Death Guard now having all the robotic Astartes having minimum 2 wounds, it's going to take twice as many just to get through them.
Yeah, that's going to be a big pain for armies that focus heavily on the 2 damage weapons, namely, Space Marine, what's it called? The guys with all the plasma rifle nonsense that really annoys me, because they're going to be quite nasty against most things with 2 wounds, except Death Guard.
Yeah, so, and then even if you overcharge, it's not really going to help you at all, because it'll just go to 2 wounds, and guess what? We ignore half of that. So
yeah, so
you're really going to risk yourself for the extra strength.
Yeah, you don't really get to put in any additional wounds. You're just getting a bit of extra strength and risking blowing yourself up.
And considering we're toughness 5 and you'd only go to strength 8 anyway, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, so why would you bother? I think my tactic for dealing with that, namely being just trying to get the volume of shots in rather than trying to get high damage, because that was the kind of tactic that I used against Death Guard beforehand. So that won't change too much, although the big bit that will change will be, I think I'll have a much better chance of taking down Death Guard vehicles.
Well, Death Guard vehicles also still have that -1 damage, so...
This is true, but when you crunch the math hammer on it, I mean, you're only losing one wound off of
Hmm.
it, as opposed to the way it was before, where you were losing a third of them.
Well, yeah, that's true. Like, so basically, if you're doing 3 damage, you were still taking off the same amount. So like a
Hmm.
third would be you'd be saving a third of them. So if you're doing 4, it'd go down to 3. It's kind of the same, really, if you think about it. Because on average, you're only going to get one, 1 and a third.
Yeah, this is
It's
true.
only if you were doing 5 or 6 damage is it actually going to change anything mathematically, really.
That's fair. I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays, and I'm sure, given that we're about a week after the codex launch, there should be a few people that have had a few games with it. We haven't yet, although that should happen before too long, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully next week.
Fair enough. So, apart from the changes with Disgustingly Resilient, what other big army wide changes were there?
Um, oh, the big one that really a lot of people are saying that I've heard of as well is the Lord of the Death Guard rule. Basically, you can only have either one Lord of Contagion or one dead Demon Prince in the army.
Hmm.
So every battalion now has to have a Malignant Plaguecaster or a Sorcerer of some sort as the second HQ because you can't have two of the big ones.
Fair enough. That'll make for some interesting lists where you can't really spam out the really nasty HQs, then, I suppose.
Well, you can't really have like two. Basically, you can only have two HQs at a time. Where battalions sometimes you can have up to. Well, I was running up to 3 in the last list. So
Hmm.
I'd have a Demon Prince, a Lord of Contagion, and a Malignant Plaguecaster. Now I can only have two and two max because, well, actually I could probably have two sorcerers and either a Lord of Contagion and a Demon Prince, but I can't have a Lord of Contagion and a Demon Prince.
That's kind of disappointing that you can't have a Lord of Contagion and a Demon Prince, because that'd be a fairly nasty
Yeah,
combo, which I suppose is why they've made you can't do it.
well you can't also have a Demon Prince and the new model, which I cannot remember the name of, so I'm just double checking it now. Lord of Virulence, I think it was called. Yes, a Lord of Virulence.
I've
You can't
heard that
have.
he's quite nasty.
Uh, kind of. I mean, all he really does is improve armor penetrations on a wound roll of 6 for core units within 6 inches.
As someone
And
who
you
likes
can,
to play Mephrit, I can tell you that extra armor penetration is always welcome.
yeah, but it's only on a wound of 6, and it's only for plague weapons, which you can't even arm a whole unit with.
I
You can
suppose
only
that
get
does.
maybe one or two in a unit.
Yeah, I suppose that does make it not as great. I suppose, although I mean, it could still be a nice thing to have just in the toolkit.
Yeah, well, the only other thing that he really contributes to is one of the stratagems that's now been changed, which basically turns it now into uh, can't remember what it's called now in the Space Marine Codex, but it's basically like a bomb,
Hmm.
um, a orbital bombardment, basically. You pick a point on the battlefield, um, models within 6 inches of that at the start of the next turn, or my next turn, if I'm the one playing Death Guard,
Yeah.
take mortal wounds. Now, it would normally cost 3 command points, but if you have a Lord of Virulence, it costs 2.
Okay, so you take him and you get to save a command point,
Yeah,
which,
on that
given
only strategy.
it's not too bad. Although, given how many command points are flying around in this edition, I mean, while more command points is always better and having cheaper stratagems is better, I don't think it's that big of an impact, I suppose.
Well, true. I mean, there's the Tallyman now. His role has changed. When you used to take him, it used to be only on a roll of a 7 would you get a command point back when you're using a Death Guard stratagem.
Yeah.
Now it's every turn at the start of the turn, you just roll 2 dice. If you get a 7, you get a command point. Or 7 or more, and you get a command point.
Okay, so you've kind of got a 50-50 chance of getting a command point, an additional
At the
command point.
start of at the start of the command phase. So it's basically each turn you're going to get an extra one on
Yeah, I
average.
suppose that could be quite useful if you plan on using a lot of stratagems.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are quite a few good stratagems that have been added with the new
Oh,
codex. So I suppose that's as good a segue into stratagems as any.
yes, that is a very good segue into stratagems. If I can just find them again. There they are. Now the Death Guard, from what I've heard, other codexes only have like a page of stratagems. The Death Guard codex has two full two full pages. So on page like 44, 45, 46, and 47 is all stratagems.
Yeah, it's similar to the Necron's codex. They've got like 2 full pages, then there's a few over the next page.
We don't have any over on the next page, but yeah. Like
But the
some
ones
of
over on
them,
the next page are dynasty specific ones mainly.
oh, well, Death Guard have 7 plague companies, each with their own special stratagem.
Ah, perfect. Nurgle does like the number 7.
Yes. They also have their own warlord trait to go with them as well that you can pick,
Ooh, very nice.
which will come into Mortarion later.
Yes, I've heard that Mortarion can take, what is it, 4 warlord traits?
He gets 3 standard, and then he picks another one at the start of the battle, so you can tailor it to whoever you're playing against, from one of the 7 plague companies.
Ouch.
Yeah.
I can feel my spleen already hurting from just hearing that.
Well, it is rather good because, in my mind, a lot of them can work very differently against different people. So, the one everyone's going on about at the moment is from Mortarian's Anvil,
Mm,
where it's called Gloaming Bloat. If you're within contagion range, which for Mortarion is always 9 inches,
yes.
enemy units cannot fire Overwatch or set to defend,
That's
and
most uncomfortable.
each time a model in that enemy unit makes an attack, the hit and wound roll cannot be re-rolled. So if you're thinking you're going to get an extra hit or an extra wound or whatever on him, no.
It's not ideal. I guess I'll just have to take him down at range then, and then send the Nightbringer in to finish him off.
Yes, well, with 18 toughness 8, 4 plus invul, 3 plus save, and a 5 plus feel no pain, good luck.
It's going to be most difficult.
And -1 damage.
Yeah, it's going to be most difficult. Although I would expect no less from the Demon Primarch of Nurgle. If he was
Well,
easy to kill, I don't think he would be worth taking it. What is it, 500 and something points?
490, it's 7 times
That's
70.
close. That's still a
Which is why
lot
they
of points for one model.
Yeah, in your normal 2,000 point game, it's like a quarter of your armor.
And if what happens to him can still happen with the new codexes to what happened the other weekend at your place, I don't think I'd
Yeah,
want to really be sinking that such a large number of points into a single unit.
and well, that's true because there are ways to minimize what he can do. The Nightbringer just basically gets rid of all saves whatsoever, including feel no pains and whatnot.
Yeah, well, on top of the Nightbringer, the Necrons also have the Psychomancer, I think it is. Or, no, it's the Chronomancer has a staff that ignores invulnerable saves as well.
Yes, but the Chronomancer can't do as much damage as the Nightbringer.
This is true, but you only need to knock off like 3, 4, or 5 wounds to make the odds of the Nightbringer taking him down in a single go reasonable.
Yes, and together the Chronomancer and the Nightbringer are probably the same amount of points as Mortarians do.
I think the Nightbringer, they boosted his points recently. He's still quite I still think he's really valuable for the points that he costs, even
Oh
with
yeah.
the increase. Um, but I think you could take 3 or 4 Chronomancers with him and still come in under Mortarion.
Yeah.
Actually, no. It'd probably be 1 or 2, actually, now that I think
Well,
about
how
it.
much is what is the Nightbringer?
The Nightbringers, I think they boosted him up to 350.
And what's a Chronomancer worth?
Chronomancer's 80, so I mean,
So
you
what?
could take
Four
2.
thirty, almost two.
Yeah.
20 points more for two.
Yeah, so I mean, it'd be a
I
fairly
mean,
even match. Nightbringer and 2 Chronomancers against him.
and as I alluded to before, there are other ways of dealing with him as well.
This is true. You
One
want
I've thought of too is, and a lot of people are talking about, is just not allowing him to do what he wants to do.
to.
With a move of, I think it's 14 he has. I'm just double checking again.
Yeah.
Um, a good way to do that is to maybe half it. And you can do this with, oh, he's got a move of 12. So bringing him down to 6-inch movement with, say, being an Eldar player myself, the restrained psychic power, which halves your movement. And then putting a squad of, say, a Wraith Guard with the shields and protect there, giving them a 3-up invul save, and just not allowing him to go and do anything else except for go for those Wraith Guard, who are going to basically target him for a little while.
Yeah, fair enough. And then the rest of your army can hit the objectives and score the points needed to win the game.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
And that comes into it, like, depending on how big the size of the Wraith Guard are, the Wraith Guard squad is under Mortarion. So, if I remember rightly, it'd be 350 points for 10. Then the 2 Warlocks required, sitting at 450. Not even that.
Yeah, it's still coming in under his points, so
Yeah.
I mean that's
And
decent value there.
yeah. And I mean, even with 7 attacks, hitting and wounding with all of them, which he will do anyway, you're going to save 2/3 of them every turn, so that you might lose 1 or 2 dudes.
Fair enough.
And with 10 of them, they're going to be sitting there for a while, for 5 turns.
No, so basically the long and short of it is, outside of the Nightbringer, there are still a few ways that you could, deal with Mortarion.
Yeah.
So while he is, more terrifying than he has ever been, he's still not an unmovable object.
Exactly.
So he's not an auto win. You still have to use some brains if you want to win using Mortarion.
Yes, very much so. Because you've got to keep him away from, like, knowing what your opponent can do to stop him doing what he does.
That's fair enough. That's what we like to see.
Yep.
I'm never a fan of when Games Workshop releases units that are just an auto counter to everything and you can't do anything to stop them, because it just makes the game not fun at all.
Yeah, and this game is actually meant to be fun.
That is the point of games, I do believe.
It's actually, from what I recall, it's not actually meant to be a game. It was actually first brought out as just a miniatures thing, where people could collect them and paint them and that sort of thing. The only reason there's rules and everything to it is because people actually started trying to play a game with it. So Games Workshop decided that they better make some rules, so it became fair.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Interesting bit of history there. Okay. Well, apart from Mortarion becoming more terrifying than he's ever been, what would another, say, 2 units in the codex that stick out as the big winners?
I think, as a basis, like any robotic Astartes unit, got a
So
bit
all
better.
of them?
No. So, with that, I'm talking about Plague Marines and Terminators and that sort of thing. they all got an extra wound, which then makes them, as I alluded to earlier, that much harder to kill.
Yes, because of the -1 damage to
Yeah.
everything coming into them.
Well, Terminators in the Space Marine Codex are now 3 wounds. Death Guard Terminators are now 3 wounds as well.
3 wounds with -1 damage to all attacks coming in.
Exactly. So all of that stuff you've got as 3 damage as well still doesn't kill Terminators.
That's pretty nasty.
Yes.
That means you then
And
have to sink 2 Locust destroyers into it, like get 2 shots
Go
to go
on.
through to take out just one of them.
Yep. And with a 4-up invul save, which is better than the Space Marine one, or 5+,
That's going to be quite nasty to take out.
yeah, half of those shots are not actually going to do anything.
That's going to make Death Shroud Terminators really terrifying then.
Yes, which also brings me to another point, which I don't know if there's any other units except for maybe the Citadel Guard or whatever they're called, or Space Marines that actually have this rule. So correct me if I'm wrong. The Bodyguard rule. So normally you have to have at least 3 models to stop getting to like shooting it or targeting a character.
Yeah.
Units with Bodyguard will only need 1.
Okay, kind of like I think Lich Guard have a similar rule.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. Maybe there's 1 for every army that's coming out.
Lich Guard and the murder buckets in the Necron's Codex, because you can only take 2 murder buckets for a unit, and if they're within, it's like 6 or it's either 6 or 9 inches of their Cryptek, you can't target the Cryptek.
Okay. So the Death Shroud Terminators have their one. It's for any character within 3 inches, except for any character with 9 wounds or less. So they
Okay.
don't protect Mortarion anymore.
Oh, bummer. Mortarion will
mate.
just have to, soak it up with his stupid number of wounds.
Yes, you would have to. Personally, I do want a unit of them, but they only come in. They start in units of 3.
Yeah.
So, for the points that you pay, it's a good start. And being able to protect those support characters that we have, like the Plague Surgeon, which then instead of giving out a 6+ or 5+ feel no pain, gives out a 6+ and can heal wounds just like an apothecary.
Using apothecaries to heal vehicles is not a thing anymore.
No,
This
but
is
Plague
terrible.
Surgeon could do that. But that's okay because Plague Surgeons didn't have that ability before. They just had a re-rolling 1s of disgusting and resilient.
That did seem kind of weird that the
Yeah.
plague surgeons couldn't do that, because kind of like they're the Death Guard equivalent of an apothecary, so you would have thought that they'd be more
Yeah,
similar.
in the lore and everything, that's kind of what they seem like as well. So
That is something I've noticed with the new releases of Codex in this edition, is that GW seems to be trying to make the armies much more lore friendly, which is something I do like, because I enjoy running fluffy lists. So if they're going to make the lists that are good, the fluffy ones, then I'm all for it.
well, that's kind of what the Death Guard are. If you take out Mortarion, everything's kind of slow. It's all just about walking up the board, creating that radius of contagion, which, by the way, is just -1 toughness.
That's scary.
Yeah, I mean, wounding Space Marines on 3s with bolters.
Wounding guardsmen, Tau, Eldar, a couple of other things on a 2+ with bolters.
Yeah, and well, the way it works is it starts out at 1 inches from bubotic Astartes units. Yep, or bubonic Astartes units, and then as the game progresses, it gets further. So turn 2, it's 3 inches. Turn 3, 6 inches. Turn 4, 9 inches, and turn 5 is 9 inches as well. So at the start of the game, you're slightly safe.
Well, at the start of the game, even if it was 9 inches, most of you guys would be too far away for it to really affect things anyway. So
Yeah.
I guess that only really applies if you hit them with a unit that you somehow manage to drop in really early and charge, because at 1 inch of range, it's only
Well, you
stuff in
can't
close
charge
combat it's
first
going to
turn.
affect.
Death Guard don't have anything that can charge first turn.
Oh, well. Yeah, this is also true. Alright, well, second
we can
turn then.
drop stuff in. But by then we've got other like combos and stuff that we would do that we can actually put like -1 toughness for our, you know, Lord of Contagion. It'll be 7 inches from turn 2 because he adds, or 6 inches, sorry, he adds 3 inches to it.
Yeah.
So even on turn 3, if he drops in, he's going to be doing, you know, -1 toughness, and then we've got, you know, actually a new psychic power that we can add 6 inches to it to a max of 12.
Ouch.
Yeah.
-1 toughness to everything in 12. That means my bloody Gauss Reapers can't get close enough to hit you.
Oh.
Well, I mean, they can, but only just.
Yeah, and then there'd be -1 toughness from me shooting back.
Yeah, that's
Or in
painful.
combat. So my basic dudes are strength 4. Like the Plague Marines are strength 4. So I'd be winning you on 3s in combat.
I think I might have to take a few more Immortals and Lich Guard. Actually,
Yeah.
no, I don't want to get close with Lich Guard. That's a terrible idea. Because I'm pretty off memory, and I'm sure someone in the comments will correct me if I'm wrong. But Immortals got bumped up to T5 off memory.
They'd still be down to toughness 4.
Yeah, but that's better than toughness 3, because at least then bolters aren't ripping me to bits.
Well, bolters would still be then wounding you on 4s instead of 5s.
I'd rather they'd be wounding me on 4s instead of 3s.
Well, it's still an extra 16.5%.
This is true. That's statistically significant.
Yes.
Okay, so Mortarion and Bubonic Astartes are two of the big winners. What would the third big winner in the codex be?
Well, Death Shroud Terminator is apparently really good. I just don't have any to run.
You'll have to get some so we can find out just how good.
I think Chaos Spawn also did really well out of it as well.
That's surprising.
Yeah, well,
I'm curious as to why you think that.
Well, instead of you just getting like D6 attacks, they start with 2D3. So basically, they're going to get two attacks minimum at strength 5, toughness 5. And with a 7-inch move, it's pretty good.
So
but they also have a mutated beyond reason thing. So in combat, they get to roll a D3 and add the result. Now this is per model, right?
Ouch.
So on a 1, at the end of the phase, hit his mutation model are equipped with an armor penetration of -4.
Mm-hmm.
On a 2, they get an extra D3 of attacks, so minimum 3 each. Or you can re-roll the wound rolls.
Those are all reasonable options.
Yeah, and at strength 5, they don't get the contagion roll, I don't think. So they don't get to do the -1 toughness, but that's okay. At strength 5, they're going to be winning most things on 3s anyway.
Yeah, at strength 5, it doesn't really change things that much in most scenarios, especially with, as it always seems to be, a meta based around Astartes. Because they never seem to actually lose out.
True, but you know, going from with 4 wounds each as well.
That's pretty nasty. And being demons, I'm sure demon spawn. I'm sure they also have an invuln.
Oh, you also -1 to your save. Oh, they do get contagions.
Oh, lovely. They do get it
as well. So your -1 toughness and your -1 leadership.
-1 leadership, I'm not that concerned about. That might be a problem for my Iron Warriors, but Orcs, leadership doesn't really matter because there's just so damn many of them. Grey
Mm.
Knights, there's not enough in a unit for leadership to really matter that much.
Well, what's the leadership of a Grey Knight?
I think Grey Knights is like, most of them are 8 or.
Okay, so make that 7. I killed 2. You're now failing on a 6.
Yeah, I suppose.
It can happen, and there's other things in the book that can also make your leadership lower as well.
And I'm sure you can daisy chain them all together.
1 or 2 of them, yeah.
I'd be disappointed if you couldn't.
True, true. I mean, if you were inclined that way and it actually worked out for you, you can, with your Terminators, there's a stratagem. If you actually, or actually, it's with any plague weapon in combat.
Hmm.
If you kill a model, you can actually do -4 leadership.
That brings like Necrons down to leadership 6, which is something that feels really weird for them.
Yeah, and I've only killed 1 model.
Ouch. That's gonna hurt.
Yeah,
That is going
but
to
still on a
hurt
6
a
you'd be
lot.
passing. On a 6 you'd be passing, but with all the other attacks there, you're bound to lose a few more.
This is true.
And then, like, there's another thing you can daisy chain on if it's around. -1 to your combat attrition rolls. So that would mean 1s and 2s, after you've failed the leadership test, 1s and 2s make people die.
Ouch.
Yeah. And if you're under half strength, 1, 2s, and 3s.
So basically, it means that under half strength, you're losing half your guys again.
Yeah.
Ow, that hurts.
But that's just one of the things that I've quickly picked up.
I'm sure there's other stuff that in there that will be discovered over the next couple of weeks to be how nasty, and then an FAQ will be released, and everyone will be back to square one.
Kind of, yeah.
Seems to be how it goes. Okay, sounds like there's some really good units in the new codex. But now let's take a bit of a negative turn. And what would you say the worst unit in the codex is?
Death Guard cultists.
Cultists?
They don't have objectives secured.
What?
They lost that. They don't have any sort of feel no pain. They're basically strength 3, toughness 3, 1 wound, 1 attack. With a 6+ save.
But they're cheap. Right?
Mm,
Or are they too expensive for what they are?
I'm just gonna double check.
Surely they'd have to be, like, really cheap.
Where is it? There it is. Troops. Let's go cultists. They're 5 points a model.
And
But
points for equipment, or equipment's free?
equipment's free.
Okay.
But for Poxwalkers, which is another loser in this one, and I'll explain why in a bit, there's also 5 points a model, but you get strength 3, toughness 4, 2 attacks, leadership 7, but they actually have a 6-up feel no pain as well.
This is true.
And have objective secured, and are mindless.
Although Poxwalkers is still a 7+ armor save, aren't they?
Yes.
Whereas cultists would be a 6+.
Yes.
So you're kind of trading off your. Although, actually, no. 6+ feel no pain would be better than a 6+ armor save, because at least feel no pain, there's less things that can ignore it.
Exactly.
So fair enough. So why do you say that Poxwalkers are a loser then?
Because you can't really hoard them up anymore. Another army rule for it is, and there is kind of a way around it in the way that it's worded, you can't have more Poxwalker, or you can only have a Poxwalker unit per bubonic Astartes infantry unit. I'm going to read it out properly because there's a wording to it that I'm going to explain. Where is it? No, I can't find it now. No. No, it's called diseased minions, right? So you cannot include more Poxwalker units than bubonic Astartes core infantry units in each Death Guard detachment. So that basically means for every Plague Marine unit or Terminator unit, you're going to have 1 unit of Poxwalkers.
Right. So, if I've understood this correctly, what you're saying is the reason that they're kind of a bit of a loser in this codex is because you just can't take enough of them for them to be terrifying.
Well, if I want to go with a list that's got, heaps of Poxwalkers, I then have to have heaps of Terminators, which then limits the amount of Poxwalkers I can have anyway.
Yeah, because you've got to consider the points as well as
Yeah.
slots that they're going to take up. Do they? Poxwalkers do still take up a slot, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They still take up a troop spot.
Okay, so
So even if you went a battalion, you could have 3 max units of 20 Poxwalkers, but then you would have to have 3 units of Terminators of either sort.
that's a lot of points to pour into troops.
Yeah. Still, at 100 points for 20 dudes.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, that's like orc level costs.
That don't run away because they're mindless.
That is a big advantage of them. You can't really play psychological games with them.
And they also have a stratagem that really works if you're in combat with them, which has changed the wording on, which I don't think people have actually looked at. So in the previous iteration of this particular one, mutant strain, it said an unmodified hit roll of 1 causes a mortal wound on themselves, and an unmodified wound roll, there's the difference, of 6 is a mortal wound on your opponent.
Yeah.
They've changed it to say an unmodified hit roll of 1 still inflicts a mortal wound on themselves, but an unmodified hit roll, so it's a hit roll now instead of a wound roll, of 6 causes the mortal wound.
Okay, so they've moved it so that it's the same roll, just a different result causes who gets the mortal wound, whereas before it was a different roll and a different result gave the mortal wound to your opponent versus you.
Wounds on your opponent. So.
Interesting change.
I mean, they do have that going for them. They have the mindless thing going for them, but still not being able to take them in that large amount kind of makes them a little less useful. And you can't just have 3 units of Poxwalkers to sit on your objectives for a while because they don't run away.
Yeah.
While you're doing other stuff and screwing around with your opponent. You now have to have units of Plague Marines, which cost a lot more points as well.
This is true. How many points is a Plague Marine now?
Now you're asking questions. There we go. For a single model, 21 points.
That's quite expensive.
Well, you're getting 2 wounds, -1 damage, 3+ save, toughness 5.
Oh, don't get me wrong, they're definitely worth the points, but that's still a lot of points for a single infantry model.
Yeah, it is.
Especially when you're going to be taking minimum squad size would be 5, I'd assume.
Yes.
So
there's 105 points just to begin with.
Yeah, and then you're probably going to want to throw some equipment in there too.
Well, the equipment's not that much. The max is like 10 points. So,
fair enough.
Like that's even for like a plasma gun is 10 points. The equipment though that has taken the biggest hit is the Mace of Contagion and the Flail of Corruption.
Yeah.
So in the previous codex, the damage from those which were damaged to spilled over. So you could hit, 3 times but kill 6 models.
Ouch.
Or wound 6, But now it doesn't carry over, so you can still only kill 3 models.
Okay, so that's not as good as it was then.
Yeah. So that took a bit of a hit, but people aren't complaining too much about that one. There is one thing that's not in the codex that people were complaining about, but if you look into it, it's actually built in now.
Yeah.
So Death Guard don't get Angry Charge, or I can't remember what the Space Marines call it, where they get that +1 attack if they're charged or they charge.
Yeah.
Death Guard now just get an extra attack across the board.
That's better though,
So,
right?
yeah, because in later turns you still get the extra attack, whereas Space Marines lose it after that first round.
Okay. Well, that definitely makes Death Guard better than Space Marines. Then there, I said it. I'm sure that's pissed someone off.
Probably quite a few people, but
I'm
I
okay with
probably
this.
agree with you.
Leave all of your negative comments below. Really show me, what you think of me. And here's a suggestion: if you really hate this stream, subscribe so you can come back and hate future ones.
Yes, because we will hopefully be doing one on the Necron list in the same sort of way.
Yeah, look, it'll happen whenever.
Yeah, whenever.
as I'm sure everyone's figured out by now, I'm really terrible at getting anything out on time. Hence, this was going to kind of be like a weekly thing, but then I was like, is it really going to happen weekly? No. What about monthly? Yeah, no.
Maybe we could probably do it monthly.
It'll just happen whenever because I'm terribly unorganized and have a million different things going on.
Well, we could probably do it monthly. I don't know what we'd talk about really.
Oh, look, I'm sure we could find something to babble on about for an hour
Yeah,
every
well,
month.
we only have like limited armies, so like I
This is
have
true.
Space Marines, which I haven't. I've kind of gone Ultramarines on colors with, but I haven't really used them before. I have Eldar, which I'm waiting on their new codex for, who knows when that's coming. And I have Death Guard. And Jono's got like what, four
I've got
armies?
Necrons, Orcs, which I really need to get some of the new stuff for Orcs because all of my Orc stuff is ancient. I got Grey Knights, which again, most of my Grey Knight stuff's ancient. And I've just started, and by just started I mean like 18 months ago, started collecting some Iron Warriors, which I'm still busy painting and assembling and all of that stuff. And they're going to be super fluffy, and I hope that when the proper Chaos Space Marine Codex comes out, the Vindicator is not terrible, because I really like Vindicators. Because who doesn't like Demolisher Cannons?
And then what we've got, one of our mates he's just started a Death Guard army. We've got another mate who's doing Tyrannids. And
So,
that's
I
pretty
mean,
much it for our little group.
there's a fair collection around, and I'm sure I could find someone that plays Tau just to piss Dave off.
Yeah, maybe.
That could be fun. I'd enjoy killing Tau.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't done it in a while.
Oh, back when I was playing in high school, there was a guy in our group that played Tau, and he just loved sitting back and wrecking stuff,
Mm.
and it'd work well for him about half the time.
Yeah, well, that's Tower for you. It only works
This
half
is
the time.
This is true.
I think
Okay.
the one guy I used to play who had Tower, I used to beat pretty much every time. And that was
That's
like
the
the
way.
7th edition, so.
Oh, look, the best part about Tau is when they kind of explode when you fire Gauss flares into them.
Or when you have like 15 Guardians drop or walk right up in front of them and just shoot the crap out of anything that's in front.
Yeah,
Who
I'm sure the
also
Tau
had,
love that too.
Who also had a squad of Wraith Guard with D-size, with the Flamers and the Flamer templates going in
Ouch.
there turn 1 as well.
Most uncomfortable, it'd suck to be Tau. Although, probably would have sucked to be Tau before they got flamed. Because
Yeah, well,
you'd be Tau.
yeah.
Anyway, Death Guard. We're talking about Death Guard, not Tau. What are we doing?
Yes.
Getting off topic. So, for the losers of the Codex, we've got Poxwalkers and Cultists. What would the third loser in the Codex be?
Um, I think the third loser is basically the fact that you can't have the Demon Quint and the Lord of Contagion in the same list, and basically set HQs that you're gonna have to take, because you're gonna have to take like one Chaos Lord, or what do they call it, Lord of the Death Guard, and one Sorcerer to make out your battalion. It's
Okay,
basically set.
so the loser's not so much a specific unit; it's just the HQ slot in general.
Yeah, because like if you take Typhus, you can't take a Demon Quint. You can't take any other HQs except for another Sorcerer or Plaguecaster.
That kind of sucks because
Yeah.
Typhus is terrifying.
He is, especially with his only if you get it close enough to his Warlord trait, which is called Shamble, right?
Mm.
And it's actually one of the out of the 7 plague companies. And if he's basically close enough, every unit in contagion range, which, as I said, we can get up to 12 inches,
Yeah.
roll a d6, subtracting 1 if the unit is a character. On a 4 plus, they suffer a mortal wound. On a 6, they take d3 mortal wounds.
Oh, lovely.
Now think of that with multiple units in the area, which is probably what's going to happen by turn 4.
I'm screaming internally.
Yes, I saw you go silent there for a while.
I'm screaming internally at this, just the thought of that.
Mm.
I'm almost glad that
Now,
you don't get to take any more nasty HQs if you take Typhus then.
but think about it. I can, with Mortarion, you can give him that one, or the other one that I suggested earlier,
Mm.
and then your HQs in the battalion can pick another one.
Oh, lovely. I don't know what else to say to that. That sounds
Yes,
like
well,
it's just gonna hurt. Just
it
hurts
is.
so badly.
Mm, Most of them, like from the looks of it, like okay, so with that other thing we said with the leadership before, you then take the Poxmongers and use their Warlord trait, which is another -1 leadership, and that's where I got the -1 combat attrition test as well from.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, but you got to remember this is all only the Warlord that can do this, so you know the whole army is not going to be doing this to you. It's just the Warlord.
Well, that's a relief then, I suppose.
Yeah, because I mean, imagine if the whole army did -1 toughness and one of these.
Yeah, that'd be most uncomfortable. I suppose I might have to take the death marks out and dust them off to start taking some warlords out early.
Not if I have some um, Death Shroud.
Yeah, it's gonna
Can't do
hurt.
it because you can't target them then.
Right, and the snipers on the death marks would only ignore lookouts, so they wouldn't look out. Ignore the unique rule that the death guard have.
Bodyguard. Mm,
That could be interesting.
yeah, but
Uh,
again, it's only one unit that can do it. So
this is true, and it's an expensive unit.
yes. So they do have a pretty good weapon on them. I'm not going to go into it because pretty much every other place has done it.
Fair enough.
But each Death Shroud Terminator unit is 15 points a model.
Ouch, that's a lot of points.
Yeah, well, Blight Lord Terminators are 40 points a model. So just for 5, there's 200 points.
Yep, no, that's it's not cheap,
Nope.
and I like
And then
things
you
that are cheap.
and then you add in like a weapon to go with them as well. Like a light launcher or Blight of Corruption or whatever, and that's like an extra 5 points. So,
Yeah, and you do that across the 5, 6, or 7 of them. That's
well, you can only do one or
fair enough.
2 weapons basically for the unit. So 210 points for a 5-man unit. It's 15 wounds and 2 plus save, 4 plus involved.
It's not cheap.
Not cheap, but it does what
Oh,
it's
it
meant to.
definitely does what it's meant to do, but it's not cheap.
No.
And if your opponent has something very specifically designed for taking out that sort of unit, that's going to hurt.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, it will.
Again, see Nightbringer.
Yeah, but Nightwing can't be everywhere.
This is very true. He definitely can't be everywhere. But I also don't see a lot of people taking lots of different things that I'm going to want to use the Nightbringer against in the same
True.
list.
True. I mean, I'm thinking maybe the next game I take a unit of Blight Lord and I take Mortarion and I take, you know, two or three units or two or three what are they called? Plague Burst Callers and a few Myphitic Blight Haulers and whatnot. So
Oh,
and then I'll
look,
get to the troops.
I'm feeling better about the Plague Burst Crawlers this edition. I feel like I have a bit of a chance of actually taking them down. It's
Yeah.
still going to be an absolute pain in the butt to take out, but I think I have a better chance now than I did before.
Yeah. Well, considering that the list that I took against you, well, the one of the lists that I was going to take against you, the one I took against you not last Saturday, but the last time I played against you,
Mm.
it's now an illegal list because I had a Demon Prince and a lot of contagion in it, and is 250 points over.
Ouch. So
Yeah.
there's been some significant point increases then.
Yes. Like the Myphitic Blight Haulers went up from 100 points to 140.
Ooh, and you were taking them in units of 3, weren't you?
Yep.
So that's an extra 120 points for the unit.
Yep.
That's painful.
Yeah, well, considering the only couple of only differences, they got an extra toughness, they got an extra wound. I think they got an extra toughness anyway. They got an extra wound, so they're now 9 wounds each.
Mm.
But the multi melter got better, so it's now 2 shots. Hard, it's now got the standard multi melter thing of heavy 2, strength 8 -4, d6 damage, and then if you're within 12 inches, d6 +2.
That's pretty nasty. That's like between 3 and 8 wounds per shot that gets through. That's
Yeah,
uncomfortable.
it is, but again, it still has to get within 12 inches to do that.
This is true, and getting stuff up that close with. Although.
I
They
mean,
were
it does
reasonable.
move 10 inches, so it's
Yeah,
got
they were a
good
fairly
chance of
quick
moving
unit.
itself. Yeah.
At the very least, quick compared to the rest of the Death Guard army.
Well, they move twice as fast as any infantry unit.
I do like things that move twice as fast.
Yeah. And like the Plague Burst Caller now only moves 9 inches instead of 10, but has a 3+ ballistic skill instead of 4.
Yeah, the Demon Engine's getting boosted from BS4 to BS3. That's going to make him a lot more terrifying as well.
Yeah, but they also don't have the core keyword, which means they can't get reroll once.
Oh no, this is terrible.
It
Here, look,
is.
I'll play the Death Guard as sad song on the world's smallest violin. I'm feeling so bad for them.
You should,
Oh,
but they do have
fun,
that
fun, fun.
-1, -1 damage and all that sort of thing. So
-1 damage,
contagions.
an invulnerable
Oh,
save that I'm sure that they'll have.
yeah, and the mortar now does not have a minimum range,
Oh,
so it can
lovely,
be
so I
fired
can't even
in
get
combat.
underneath it now.
And combined with the Death Guard, one of the Death Guard army-wide rules,
Mm,
which is called, what is it called? Inexorable or something like that. They
yeah.
don't get the -1 to hit in combat
Oh,
when
lovely.
shooting heavy weapons. Yes. So
Does the mortar still not require line of sight, or did they change that?
this weapon can target units that are not visible to the bearer.
Lovely, so it's still proper artillery then.
Yep, and has the blast keyword and the plague weapon keywords, which means reroll 1s to wound.
That's goddamn terrifying.
And it's still strength 8 -2, 2 damage. Entry cannon's got slightly better though. And by slightly, I mean, you know that stratagem I used to have to play to get them to do D3 wounds,
Yeah.
or 3 plus, or minimum 3 wounds.
Yep. They're now just
Yeah,
doing that.
they're straight 3 plus D3 now.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, with
So,
plague weapon automatically.
so between 4 and 6 wounds per shot that gets through.
Yep,
That's gonna hurt.
yep. Just one hit on your Nightbringer return will be fine.
That's fine. I mean, with the Nightbringer, I'm not really concerned about what you're hitting him with, because I'm sure whatever you hit him with is gonna do the 3 wounds.
Yeah.
And I
And
mean,
that's
he
what
only
it's
really
for.
needs to, get through to the end of turn 2 to have done his job, because he's generally quick enough that he'll get to whatever the nasty thing I want him to take out is pretty quickly.
Yeah, yeah, he'll get there. It's just whether or not he does what he needs to when he gets there. I mean, especially if, say, on turn 1 and you've moved him up and had first turn, because he's got that thing where I can just target him anyway. I can do 3 in the psychic, do 3 in the shooting, and then charge him and kill him with Mortarion. But all of those things have to work for me to actually get it to work.
Yeah, I only have to disrupt one of those things for him to get through to the next turn and do some serious damage.
Yeah. But if you don't kill in one turn, you're then dead yourself.
I'm okay with this.
Because of how much it would actually take to do it, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, doing the math hammer on it, you only really need to take 4 or 5 wounds off Mortarion for the Nightbringer to have a significant enough advantage to be able to take him down.
Well, as we saw in the game that you and I played, you overkilled him in one round. So, and then obviously I was just mucking around with that game, but
This is true.
It was just to see how much the Nightbringer could actually do in one go.
This is true. I was curious as to how he'd go against Morty, and I'm still curious as to how he'll go against him in the new edition. So I suppose we'll just have to play some bigger games so that you bring him out again.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what's the stats on the Nightbringer's weapon again?
Oh, it's...
Is it like 3 damage?
I think it was D6 damage off memory.
Yeah, I think it is. But still, so you'll be hitting with like 7 attacks, not re-rolling, so you'll get 6 hits on average. Your strength, what, 16 or something?
Yeah.
So winning on 2s.
Yeah, because with the profile that ignores your rules that ignore wounds, it's double strength.
What's the strength of a Nightbringer?
And the Nightbringer's the Nightbringer's base strength is 7, so it'd go to 14. So it's still only wounding on 3s.
So now 4 get through. Right. On an average, you're getting 12 wounds minus 4, so 8 wounds. So Mortarion's got more of a chance now.
He does. He definitely has more of a chance. Like we said earlier, he is more terrifying now than he's ever been.
But you only have to roll a little bit hot for the Nightbringer to actually just go through and just smack him in one go.
Yeah, although, I mean, it can go the other way and he can roll terribly.
And then Mortarion just turns around and just pop.
Yes. Although, generally speaking, the Nightbringer should do a couple of mortal wounds on his way in.
Yeah.
And accompany that with a Doomsday Arc or some Locust Heavy Destroyers sitting in the backfield. Should be able to hit him a couple of times and get those few extra wounds off him that you need before the Nightbringer hits combat.
Yeah, so it is doable, and
it's doable. Before, it's just not easy.
Ways around it. Yeah.
Fair enough.
I mean, there's other things you could do that are a lot more fun. Take a non-Mortarion list, for example.
Take play Death Guard versus Death Guard and take a Typhus list versus a Mortarian list.
Yeah, the Mortarian list would easy win. Because you can't have all the bloody Poxwalkers anymore.
Oh no, this is terrible.
I know. And, you know, Poxwalkers got a little bit better too because they got toughness 4 now. Instead of toughness 3. So makes them that little bit more harder to kill. That's why I put them above the cultists.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, they're a little bit better. It's just everything else got a lot more better, and you can't take as many Poxwalkers as you'd like.
Yeah. And you can't take it, like, you can't do the same thing with cultists because you can only have 1 unit of cultists per unit of bubonic studies as well.
That's a pain.
So you could end up with a toughness. Let me just double check something. That one. Does he still do it? Like this. Ah. Okay.
No, he doesn't still do it?
Well, Typhus used to give Poxwalkers an extra strength and toughness. Now he only gives them an extra strength.
Oh no.
So I was thinking that you could end up making Poxwalkers toughness 6.
Toughness 6 Poxwalkers would be goddamn terrifying.
Yeah, because you'd have Typhus standing next to them, and then you cast Putrescent Vitality on them, which gives them +1 strength and toughness.
I'm assuming Poxwalkers still have a rule of some description that allows them to get models back when they kill their opponents in close combat.
Yes, they do.
Of course they do.
And these models can be set up within. They have to be set up within. What's it called? Engagement range.
Okay.
So they can still be set up within engagement range if they're in combat.
Unless you had so many of them around and densely packed terrain that you couldn't set them up in engagement range.
Yeah, so they still have to be within engagement range of another Poxwalker.
Although generally speaking, if you've killed one of your opponent's models, there should be enough room for you to put one down.
Yeah, in the same spot.
Yeah. So not really many ways to block that, I suppose.
Yeah.
Oh, fun. Well, we've gone into overtime now. So we might start wrapping things up at this point. On a scale of 1 to 10 though, how would you rate this Death Guard Codex compared to previous ones?
Ooh. I've only got really 1 to go on, which was the last one.
Well, how would it compare to that one then?
If you compare it using War of the Spider as well, I would say this codex is probably about 10% better.
10% better? And if you discount War of the Spider?
About 20 to 30% better. War of the Spider added so many stratagems that you could end up doing, many mortal wounds at turn. There was one thing there where you could do like this massive grenade bomb that Jono himself experienced. Ooh,
yeah, I really hate that one, and I've never been so glad for you to not be able to do that anymore.
I can still do up to 18.
That's still terrifying, but it's not as terrifying.
True. Especially when I had a unit of 9 that was rolling 9d6, and if you had 10 models or 11 models, it was automatically 6 per dice.
Yeah. So basically, it was insta kill any unit. Any infantry unit it got put against.
Yeah, because you were doing mortals on 5 pluses, mortal wounds on 5 pluses.
Yeah, that hurts. That hurts a lot. I'm gonna be very glad that I don't have to worry about that anymore.
Well, 18 dice with mortal wounds, still. And 2 damage
it's still terrifying, but at least it gives my warrior squads a chance.
Yeah, but then I haven't fired the rest of the bolters from the squad and done combat or anything else.
I think I'm just going to keep my warriors in transports until I need them. I mean, how well the grenade's going to go against a flyer?
Strength 4, -1 or -2 at 2 damage. Probably not as well, but
Probably not as
I
well.
wouldn't spend the stratagem then to do it.
And I
I'd
mean,
just
minus
shoot
one hit
mortars
as
at
well
it
because it's
instead.
a flyer.
Yeah, but I'd shoot like mortars and stuff at it instead, and entropy cannons.
This is true.
So when they did hit, they actually did something.
Yeah, that's gonna hurt.
But again, that's all conjecture. That's all possibilities. It all depends on how the game's going, and you know what's alive at what point.
Yeah, we're gonna have to play a few games, test some stuff out, and see what works, see what's not so great, see what we thought was looking great but not great, and maybe even try some things that are obviously terrible and just see how terrible they are.
Yeah, like a unit of 20 cultists.
Oh, just an entire army of cultists. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, you can't do that. It's the same as the
Well,
Foxwalkers.
almost an entire army of half an army of cultists. Then
Yeah, you could end up with like 60 of them.
that's a lot of cultists.
Yeah, as long as you had like 15 Terminators as well.
Actually, that could give some really interesting possibilities there. Because I mean, you'd have lots of T-shirt save, low toughness, low wound count infantry,
Mm.
which in order for your opponent to counter that effectively, he's going to have to pump out the volume of shots
Yeah.
to be able to counter. But then they also have to write their list around having to deal with a crap ton of bloody Death Guard Terminators.
Well, let's see. You do three. That's 900 points of your army, just in those 6 units. So you got 60 cultists, all basic, and then 15 Blight Lord Terminators, all basic.
That still leaves you what 1,100 points
1100
for
points.
some artillery, some HQs, whatever
Some
other
support
nasty
characters.
bullshit you want to take.
Yeah, like the Plague Surgeon for the Terminators, just walking around with those 15 Terminators, giving them a 6-up, feel no pain, and healing them if he wounds them.
Yeah, I'll know how my opponents feel whenever I play Necrons.
Yeah, or, one thing that I did notice was missing too. One of the support characters also used to walk around giving a 5-up invul
Mm.
to infantry units. It's not in there anymore, so I can't remember who actually had it, but it's not in there. So imagine Plague Marines now with their 2 wounds and -1 damage, also having a 5-up invul.
Yeah, I'd rather not imagine that. I'd
Again,
honestly rather not.
yeah, but luckily it's not in there because I haven't seen it.
Fair enough.
But that's just possibilities of things that could have happened.
The endless possibilities.
Mm.
Fun, fun, fun. Alright, well, I think we'll wrap things up there. This has been really good. Been a good conversation. Death Guard Codex looks like it's absolutely terrifying. And we don't really have enough codexes out to really do a fair comparison at this point. So we'll have to see when some more come out and see how it compares a bit into the future.
Dark Angels one's coming out this weekend, or pre-releases this weekend. Coming.
Yeah, the
Or next
alongside
weekend.
the Dark Angels Codex that went on pre-order today, they what the heck? I think my camera just died.
Yeah.
Oh well, I'll turn that off for a sec then.
Okay.
I think that's the camera saying game's over. Unfortunately, the power cable for the camera was like not long enough to reach the camera from my
No.
PowerPoint. Hence, it was running off battery. But
No,
yeah,
well, if you want
we'll
to
have
keep this
to
for just an hour.
we'll play some games and see what happens. Leave your comments in the comments section below. And remember to subscribe if you liked it and you want to see more of this sort of thing, or subscribe if you hated it and you want to come back and thumbs down everything else that I do because you're a horrible person.
And let us know if you want me to talk so much again.
And yeah, if you enjoyed hearing Chris's lovely, soothing, very calm voice, almost too calm. Subscribe,
Might
come
put
back,
sleep
it'll be
next
great.
time.
Do whatever Twitch people do. I don't understand Twitch at all, but someone said that if you're going to be using Restream to send your live streams to multiple platforms, you should probably do Twitch as well. So I was like, oh, okay. I don't understand Twitch, but we'll do it anyway.
Yeah.
So subscribe, do all of that stuff, and we will see you all next time, maybe. Unless we don't. I mean, this is Wargaming, whenever.
Exactly. We'll do